component in Bertrand Russell's Causes of Happiness in section 2. He entitles Zest. And what this is, Zest, is a kind of energy, or we might say in New Agey terms, frequency or vibration, a kind of attitude, a mode of consciousness that contains a lot of energy and enthusiasm for life. Zest is not about particularly what we're doing, it's about how we're experiencing what we're doing, what kind of energy we're bringing to the table. You can think about this as somewhat of the flavor of childlike curiosity. You can think of it as a welcome reception, a welcoming attitude toward what we are experiencing. It is a high vibration. And Bertrand feels like this is quite natural, actually, that we all have a natural, healthy, instinctually driven interest in life. You can see this in most children, but oftentimes it's destroyed or suppressed or limited by a whole variety of unfortunate circumstances that we might go through. Or I might add certain elements in our socialization, in our social structures, in our conditioning, in our cultural conditioning, can diminish or take us away from this natural expression of what he's calling zest. So what might we do about the matter if this curiosity and enthusiasm for life and life being surprising and delightful is often accessible in childhood and easily lost in adulthood? What should we do? Bertrand Russell thinks we should be very open to experience, a wide variety of experiences, and also to bring a certain kind of healthy, hearty interest to, like I said in the introduction to section 2, the people and things that we encounter in this world, the 10,000 things under the sun that we have a chance to encounter. This enthusiastic curiosity is this primary attitude or relation that he suggests that we have in interacting with all the variety of experiences that we do, rather than if we think about how the ego usually perceives, it's very caught in what it prefers and what it doesn't, in its aversions and attachments. It wants what it wants and wants to reject what it doesn't like. And this is not the kind of open, healthy, welcoming attitude that Bertrand Russell has seen corresponds to really healthy and happy people. Note that he's not talking about people having certain privileges, possessions, or fortunate circumstances. He's talking about an attitude that we may bring to whatever circumstance that we're in. He uses the metaphor of how we might relate to food to contrast this healthy attitude to other attitudes that he finds are common. He feels like some people relate to food and to life by extension in a kind of a greedy way. This he calls the gourmand or gluttonous approach to life, and that greediness destroys happiness. Another way we might relate to food, or again by extension life, is what he calls the archetype of the epicure or elitist, who has such high standards that they create chronic disappointment and dissatisfaction because the elitist condemns many experiences as beneath him or her, and can't meet and greet the world in all of its variety of forms. Another attitude he finds is not compatible with happiness would be like a dutiful attitude. And in our metaphor of relating to food, this would be somebody who might see eating as a chore, as a necessary to promote, survival. And he's feeling like this person is missing the whole point. And the whole point is to enjoy ourselves, which is really echoed by Eckhart Tolle. And I pulled up one of Eckhart Tolle's core concepts that I absolutely love. It's the primary concept that I remember from his book A New Earth from, I think, what was it, 2005. And in this book, he talks about 3 modes of awakened doing, he calls them. His 3 modes are acceptance, enjoyment, and enthusiasm. And these are in ascending order vibrations or attitudes that we may bring to life that he feels are enlightened or awakened and positive, as opposed to, we might call what lies outside the range of the 3 modes of awakened doing resentment or resistance. And so in the first level, he's basically saying if we don't or can't like what we're doing, I think he uses the example of if you have to change a flat tire in the middle of the night in pouring rain, if you think about that example, at least bring acceptance to it, which is releasing resistance and saying something like, I radically accept, that's from the DBT tradition, I radically accept that this is occurring and I'm going to be present and bring, I think he calls like a quiet, peaceful tone to these kinds of experiences. But moving to enjoyment, which is higher vibration, and that's exactly what Bertrand Russell's labeling Zest here, he encourages us to bring a healthy joy, a joyful interest in things, to many things that we're doing. And by doing that, by being in these attitudes that he thinks are involved in awakened doing, we decrease the suffering on this planet, because his contention is that when we are in resistant, resentful modes, it's not a private affair. It really does affect ourselves and those around us in really negative ways. That, you know, we are more or less responsible for the kind of states of mind that we're bringing into our activities, and we should work on trying to bring more of this positive energy to who we're dealing with and what we're doing. He's also advocating to take in a wide swath of life experience and not try to cherry pick what our ego really wants to do, what it prefers. Taking in much, he advocates for a sort of what I might call extroverted attention, and an active, engaged life to prevent the kind of self-involvement that we covered in section 1 quite a bit, that can become dry, tiresome, repetitive, and we might say navel-gazing. He says the man whose attention is turned outward can find within, in those rare moments when he examines his soul, the most varied and interesting assortment of ingredients being dissected and recombined into beautiful or instructive patterns. He is feeling like being largely, and for the most part, active, engaged, involved, and only in rare intervals, to be self-reflective, to be the recipe for mental health. He also advocates for a diversification strategy, which I've already mentioned at various points in this lecture series, kind of as a way to ensure that if one is thwarted or blocked in life due to injury or illness or all the things, the blows that life brings to us, that we have a lot of other avenues open to us at any given time. Another way to describe this zesty approach to life is to have an adventurous approach to life, to take a lot of risks, to be experimental and playful. The wildly successful productivity and habit change author James Clear talks about adopting a philosophy of personal science and self-experimentation. I think this is a really nice way to live and to learn from our mistakes. There's wide bandwidth for failure, for learning, for growth. Bertrand Russell also, relatedly, wants us to keep in touch with our desires, impulses, and instincts that can bring with it that enjoyment of life element, because we're staying really in touch with really our deep feelings instead of living robotically or living too seriously, too dutifully, too much self-restraint, Too much, even being scheduled, right, can make us be mechanical and live in a self-alienated manner. And one last line that he promotes here is that we should, said in another way, live passionately, but not so passionately that our passions lead to excess, which undermines our total lifestyle or total approach to life. He's really, at various points, keen to underscore the importance of avoiding escapism and extremism, and reminds us that the ancients, as everyone knows, regarded moderation as one of the essential virtues, and that all of our separate tastes and desires have to fit into a general framework of life for life to be coherent and stable and make sense and not be kind of a mess. Lastly, going one step beyond where the book takes us in this chapter on Zest, I want to mention that there's a certain kind of even higher vibe energy or frequency or attitude that I've encountered rarely in myself and through, we might call them role models or figures or characters that I'm immensely drawn to. And that energy is, we might call it mystical ecstasy. Someone who is enraptured by life, who is sizzling with life energy, who's on fire in their experiences. And one figure from my childhood that I am still absolutely enamored with, who I think radiates this incredibly positive energy, is Maria von Trapp from The Sound of Music. She's having a wild love affair with life, and she begins with her exploration of having the wild love affair with her spirituality and nature and music. And then, of course, in the arc of the film, finds that same love affair and integrates various aspects of her original love affair with life in the hills with, of course, the Von Trapp family. And so brings that zesty, enthusiastic, mystically ecstatic energy to this family with wild responsiveness. Of course, people love it. They feed off of this energy and they thrive. And you see in the movie, right, that the children learn very easily, and their project comes together very naturally because it's undergirded by this energy. Not just Maria's musicality, which is incredible, or her instructional style, all important. The foundation is her ecstatic energy that's infectious and conducive to thriving, to learning, to love. And with that, we might remember when we're eating a crisp apple strudel, when we are riding a cream-colored pony, when we are wearing our blue satin sashes, when we find that snowflakes stay on our nose and eyelashes, to remember this attitude, this energy, and to try to tap into it and bring it to all these rather mundane, everyday experiences. That's where it's at. The true joy that one can, through soulful relatedness to these things, bring into this life.